If you're in Seattle, and you need to buy or sell a home, we'll be right there for you. Because we're the realtors that you can trust. So go to ronanddonsitdown.com.
You're listening to The Ron and Don Show on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of the Ron and Don Show. We are back in the TeamLisa.com studio. That's TeamLisa.com for all your mortgage needs.
It is time for our real estate only episode. And so, Don, this is now part 3 in a 3-part series that I've created.
Weren't you supposed to pause here?
No, we're supposed to pause in a second after I do the intro.
When do I pause?
Same time that I'm going to pause.
Okay.
Matt needs us to pause.
Do we have a signal?
I'll just say now we pause, and then Matt will cut that part off.
Okay.
So so basically, I've been doing a deep dive on how we should understand the market, and the reason why I've broken this into 3 parts is I think this is so critical to when we do sit downs, and if you're buying or selling a property, to understand these metrics. In fact, we just did a sit down yesterday where the client that we've been working with and going through the entire process had a real good handle on what the house is worth. His family member came by for one visit now that it's been fixed up and staged. And like, she wants $150,000 more for the house just for no reason, just because she's like, oh my God, it turned out so good, but has no understanding of the market dynamics, doesn't understand the algorithms. All that this family member knows is like, this looks better than I thought it was going to look. I want 150 grand more. Mm-hmm. Pulling that number out of the sky. You'd be surprised at how often that happens when you don't understand what we're about to talk about today. And that is, how do I know what market we're in? And what, if I'm a buyer or a seller, what is happening and what is important for me to know? So that's what we're going to do today with a new thing called sales intensity.
Check 1, 2, real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not watching Ron right now with his magic wand from the Wizard of Oz and his whiteboard.
And it's from Harry Potter.
It's from Harry Potter. You must go to Spotify or YouTube right now and watch the ridiculousness. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, over and out. Back to Ron with some sales intensity. Ron?
So we're talking about sales intensity, and it's real. The past couple of weeks on the real estate show, we've been trying to figure out, are we in a buyer's market, a neutral market, a seller's market? We talked about Redfin, sort of changing all the definitions. So as I was going through all this, I found a new metric that I think is going to really help you, Don, and help everybody in the Ron and Don Nation. Because when you talk about the months of inventory model that was in the 2 episodes ago, that's a lagging indicator. That's an indicator that is looking in the rearview mirror and giving you what the months of inventory is. So Redfin tried to change that to just say, are there more buyers or sellers right now? And so the people over at John L. Scott have invented a thing that they call sales intensity, and that's a forward-looking indicator of like what is happening right now. And so this I found to be very interesting. And so let's go over how they do this. So instead of just taking the how long would it take for all the houses that are listed to be sold, which is the months of inventory indicator, and instead of just inventing a number of buyers, which what Redfin does, and just say, we think that there's more buyers than sellers because of how many people are looking at Redfin. The John L. Scott formula is interesting. So what they've done is taking the number of homes pending within the last 30 days, they divide it by the new listings that came on that month, and they get a thing that they're calling the sales intensity. And so this is a number between, they have different quadrants: buyers, healthy, strong, very strong, and frenzy. And so what they're trying to say with this the sales intensity thing is like, what is happening right now, not what's looking back in the past, and not a number that we're inventing like the number of buyers, but what is the intensity level in given neighborhoods? And this to me makes a lot of sense. And so, because what we've seen in headlines recently is that, oh, it's tipped towards buyers, but they don't give you any sort of metric on that. They're just saying, well, there's no more buyers now than there are sellers.
And maybe it has nationally, and there would be a lot of cities and places nationally that you could point to, or it has tipped towards buyers.
Right.
The problem is, and you always make this, and it's a great point, when you see a story coming out from Zillow or Redfin, first of all, it's coming out from Zillow or Redfin, so, trust or don't trust the source. And typically what they're doing is they're taking all 50 or at least the 48 and they're baking all those numbers together. Not only can you do that and have accurate numbers when it comes to real estate around the country, it certainly won't give you accurate numbers in Washington State. And even when we're trying to look at numbers, the micro markets are here. I mean, think about Seattle. It's 300 cool neighborhoods that are all, hooked together by streets and bridges and parks, and all separated by mountains and water. There are so many micro niches when it comes to real estate, and that's a very specific thing to the Great Pacific Northwest that we don't see in a lot of other places.
So in my deep dive using this sales intensity model, what I found is the market now is bifurcated, and it's based on, are you priced right or are you overpriced? So let's look at where we are in the market right now using the sales intensity model. So for Seattle proper, it comes in at a sales intensity number of 43.3. So what that means is if we're under 25% or under, it's a buyer's market. 25 to 35, they're saying healthy. That's sort of similar to balanced market, but this is only looking back for a month. Strong is 35 to 45. Very strong is 45 to 60, and frenzy is 60 plus. So from COVID, when interest rates were 2.8, we were well above 60. Everything was pinned way over here.
Fanatical.
It was just frenzy, multiple offers, waving everything. So we're not in frenzy mode anymore, but...
You almost just hit me with your wand, by the way.
I know, you don't like that.
I'm glad I have eye protection on.
Seattle is now at 43.3. Snohomish County's at 49, so very strong. Pierce County's at 52, and King County's at 55, so almost to frenzy. So the difference here between Seattle and King County is when you add in the east side, the number actually goes up in King County when you're adding in Sammamish and Kirkland and Juanita and all those places. And so this to me is very interesting in that, but here's where this thing is converged. You have back in February, our intensity was about 55%. And so from February to May, it's gone from 55 to 43. This is for Seattle. Meanwhile, the inventory has gone up. And so what we're seeing is that the inventory is increasing, the sales intensity is decreasing, and so it's kind of converging now for the first time in a long time. But it gets even more interesting than that.
People should really look, and I'm being honest, you should look at Ron's whiteboard. And it's pretty usual to go from February to May and have it be less intense. What's unusual is to see all the inventory piling on in May. And this is realtors that are holding and agents that are holding properties back until they get on the other side of daylight savings time, or when and people always say, don't sell my house until the flowers are blooming. We want to be closing on your house a lot of times when the flowers are blooming, and people are like, well, they have to see the garden. They have to see the garden. Well, them having to see the garden might have just cost you $100,000, and people never believe us when we're like, hey, list early. Come on, February 15th, because people have been sitting around all winter. They decide to get a divorce. People make huge life decisions during the holidays, especially when they're stuck with each other for a long time. And that's when a lot of divorces happen, right? Or people are going to change schools, or someone passes away, there's an estate sale. They are making big time. I see it in my Airbnb business. That's when a lot of my summer Airbnb business gets booked, is during the holidays. Boy, you have a house up for sale February 15th. There are no homes up for sale February 15th. And then people start to worry, I wonder if there'll be more inventory. I better buy this home and buy this home now. That's why February 15th, a lot of times, you guys, is so much better than selling on July 15th when all the flowers are out.
So here's the deep dive that I confirmed what you and I are seeing in our business is, so we're in strong or very strong in all these places. However, when you dig deeper into that, it really falls into two camps. Houses that are priced right on their launch date versus houses that are overpriced on their launch date. Houses that are in the priced right and are good to go, they are turnkey. You're still seeing multiple offers. They're still closing in 30 days. You're seeing no price reductions and a lot of times price increases. And from the sign in the ground to you getting a check in the the bank or you moving in is 63, a little right around 60 days. When a house is overpriced and people are looking back and saying, oh, yeah, well, I think I can get that $100,000 more. Back in 2022, my neighbor sold it for this. Same market dynamics in these numbers, but when you break it down, that house is sitting for over 120 days.
Wow.
So double the amount of days. You're seeing price reductions on that listing. You get a buyer stigma, and I want you to talk about buyer stigma for a minute. And so when a buyer sees a house that, for whatever reason, is sitting on the market longer and longer, something psychological happens.
Well, something happens if you see a house that's sold and then it comes back on. And they're like, whoa, that didn't pass the inspection. I wonder what's wrong with the house. Maybe there's some, and they start, it's called fatal thinking. I wonder what's going on with the foundation. Is that thing falling down the hill? And people just aren't willing to pay as much for that house, right? And then also, you see this a lot. In fact, we tell people now, list your property for a little more than you really want. It depends on the price point. If it's a condo and you're under 500 grand, list it for 10, 15, 20, up to $25,000 more than what you want, and then you can price adjust. That way you get your number and the other side feels like they get a deal, because people want a deal, especially when they see price reduction. So you'll see lots of price reductions right now, but it doesn't mean that the seller is coming off their number on a more expensive house, maybe over $1 million. You might ask for $50,000 or $60,000 because you know someone's going to want a $25,000 haircut in order to be able to tell everyone that, hey, I got a hell of a deal. The homes that sit are the people and the realtors and the agents, Ron, that didn't build in a price reduction. And right now we're in a market where you build in the price reduction. So when you hang the flag in the ground, ask a little more than you want, and then be ready to retreat in 3 weeks. 3 weeks is the magic number. These homes that sit here for 121 days, usually by the time they retreat, they didn't build in the price reduction. The realtor or the agent promised a number that they can't meet. They promised that number in order to get the deal because people have talked to other realtors and maybe the other realtors told them it was worth less, right? We just had a deal we didn't get because we felt like the home and where it was, the condition it's in, was worth $150,000 less than what other realtors were saying. So we didn't get the deal. And guess what? That house is just going to sit and sit and sit and sit because that realtor lied to them in order to get their commission check and ride the market down at some point. Sometimes people get so angry, though, and mad, they end up firing the person that's trying to ride the market down. They'll hire another realtor, and then it's the second realtor in the door that tells them the truth. But the other realtor did all the heavy lifting, and the second realtor gets paid.
So buried within these stats that you're seeing in the Pacific Northwest is the tale of two different markets. And so while we're still strong or very strong, the people that are sitting for 120 days, it doesn't feel strong or very strong. But the error is in your side of the ledger.
We've sold everything this year quickly, either before, during, maybe a little after offer review. We have one house that we didn't, and it's a very, very unique house. And it was built by a unique family, and somebody has to get the house. And even doing a bunch of price reductions on this particular house, it doesn't. That's not the lever that you accidentally want to. You actually want to pull. On this, it's price, but it's also just time. Sometimes when it's a very, very unique property and you're looking for that unique buyer, sometimes you got to wait for it. But that's like 1 in 50 houses, you guys. Like the other 49, they should be dialed in and sold. And in 2026, again, I had someone tell me the other day, hey, what about all these $2 million properties that are sitting on the market, or these 1.2? And I'm like, they're not sitting on the market. If they are in good shape, good to go, they're turnkey, people have done their work, and they've been thoughtful in the way that they price things, it's still very historical. And people are like, well, the market's down in certain neighborhoods 2%. I'm like, yeah, but you're talking about, like, go compare that to Barrington, Illinois, where you could buy a house on an acre like my cousin owns, and it's $185,000, and it hasn't gone up or down by 2% in 30 years.
Right.
So it's all very relative about where you've come from. And the value of the homes that we have, even the starter homes, the numbers are still historically very, very high.
And when we do our run-on sit-down, depending on your exact neighborhood, you could be in a frenzy zone or it could be down to 25%, depending on the characteristics of that individual neighborhood. I had a buyer one time looking at this house. It seemed amazing. It was right next to a major fire station where the fire trucks were going out.
I would love that.
Every 15 minutes.
I'd jump on a truck.
And so that was way down here because the fire engines, but the house was nice.
We got a call.
So if you want to do a sit down, let's do ronandonsitdown.com. You can email me, ron at ronandon.com. I think I'm going to put this series to bed, 3-part series. Go back and listen to 1, 2, and 3, and you'll have a much better understanding of where the market is right now.
I went and did a home visit last week. Like in my neighborhood, if you call the cops, they're not coming because there are none to come. It's just I went into a neighborhood last week, and not only were there 4 cop cars out in front of the house, but a naked guy was on one of the hoods of one of the cars, handcuffed. I'm like, we're going to sell this house because you know what? We got a good police presence around here. I'm like, I'm seeing it for myself right now. This is great. You call the cops and it looks like they actually come. The reason they're not coming to my neighborhood is because they're all in this neighborhood.
Everybody's got their clothes on.
Nobody had their clothes. It was a nice sunny day, though.
Of course.
I don't blame the guy for running around naked. So, anyway. Hey, you guys, thanks for stopping by and being part of the Ron and Don Show. Don't forget, if you need us, just sit down. Go to ronandonsitdown.com. Type that in when you're sitting down. And then we'd love to sit down with you. And, hey, it's quite a journey to go on when you go on a real estate journey, and we'd love to go on that journey with you. And especially with your parents' house, don't be embarrassed if they hung on to a lot of things. We see that a lot with parents and grandparents. And people sometimes are embarrassed to call us because they're like, it's a hoarder house. It's a hoarder house. And we walk in there, we're like, you have not seen a hoarder house. So I bought hoarder houses. In the one hoarder house I bought in the U District, I've never seen one worse. And we've seen some stuff, haven't we? Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. Anyway, parents aren't hoarders. They're collectors, and they hung on to everything. Because that's what you did in that generation, because everything had a purpose. And then sometimes as you get older, maybe you cognitively slide. And then all those things make you feel comfortable. They bring comfort to you, right? To hang on to that old coffee pot and that 8 sets of china, because that's what you remember. And a lot of people have cognitive decline. They're connected with old memories. And that's why they love staying in their homes, because they know how the coffee pot works. And they know where the china is, because a lot of times the cognitive part of the brain, when it comes to old memories, is still alive as those newer parts of the brain and the frontal lobe start to die off. And that's where moms, dads, grandmas sometimes can really get in trouble. And Ron and I see this a lot. When you invite us into such an intimate situation like that, we're very honored by it. We're very, very honored. So don't be embarrassed by that. Like, we're here for it. We are here for it. We're here for you. We're here for your family. We're here for your friends. That's what doing the sit down is all about. And I just love when people ask us to come out to their properties. And then you get to, especially people that have owned these stories, they raise their kids, you just get to walk through and relive their lives with them. And it's very extraordinary, especially after sitting behind these microphones and not meeting any of you for 30 years. Now we get to connect through real estate and through Sunday supper. So if you didn't come to Sunday supper, we'll have another Sunday supper probably coming up at the end of the year. And Ron has decided we're going to have takeout.
Absolutely.
What can we get? 3,000 tacos from Taco Bell.
Exactly, and burritos.
Why weren't you singing along during the sing-along?
Because I was slicing meat.
I know you were. You were sweating your balls off back there. Like you and I were both working.
Of course,
we were both working.
It's worth it, though.
We were working. It was worth it. We loved having you guys. Anyway, if you left a salad bowl, it now belongs to me, and it's at one of my Airbnbs. RonandDonSitDown.com when you need us. Don O'Neill, Ron Upshaw on social medias. Thanks to Matt today for putting together all these shows. We appreciate that. And Bri, the pie guy.
You bet.
Yeah. Till next time, keep your head up and your shoulders back, and don't forget that you listen to the Ron and Don Show all night on the Ron and Don Radio Network.
Well, that's it. Show's over. We'll see you next time on the Ron and Don Radio Network.